Well, I don't know if we want to call it tension or a disconnect, but something doesn't add up. Because, our friend Ron Jaworski, and he's our friend, and of all the analysts at the NFL level, at ESPN or anywhere else, on 27 times and ran the football against the Dallas Cowboys. On 21 of those 27, because the Eagles under Chip Kelly, they want to dictate matchups through pace and execution. When you don't have execution and pace, they don't have formation variation or personnel variation. What does that mean? That means the defense knows what's coming, and if they can out-execute you, that's it. Bottom line, you're not going to be successful, and the Eagles are not successful in their running game as a result.
Sal Pal Antonio, Sal Pal Friday. I would ask you this question then, Sal, because
Mike, come on, you got to admit, that's pretty good stuff. When you can get the film breakdown that's going to be on ESPN on Saturday and Sunday on the Mike Gill Show on Friday.
I agree, and I know talking to Jaws, the man has a brain that sees things in these plays that is unbelievable to me. I've had a lot of conversation about him when he was down here about what Chip Kelly does, and this is what I want to follow up with then. The Eagles had the rushing champion 2 years ago. LaShawn McCoy had 1,200 yards last year. So what they were doing was working to some extent. Have people figured them out, or do they not have the talent up front?
Well, I think it's three things. One, they made changes in the offensive line that deteriorated the offensive line play. So that means, two, ipso facto, they're not executing. Three, they're not varied in their run game, either in formation or personnel grouping. So teams know what's coming. So it's a combination of all three.
Do you think, Sal, that Chip Kelly has a plan B? Or is it, this is what I do, and if it doesn't work, I'm foiled?
I think if this doesn't happen, I'm foiled. I think he doesn't have a plan B. I think he's going to go back to the drawing board. We might see more variation. We might see more Ryan Matthews. I don't know why he was taken out of the game plan last week, but he was. So there's the possibility we'll see different personnel on the field. But I think the one thing that they have to consider doing, Mike, and because I've been on the show for many years, and I've advocated for at least the last two, that this team huddle up, that this team slow the pace down. Because if they're not converting, they need to give their defense a rest by slowing the pace down and staying on the field longer than they have been.
I want to ask you this question, too, and that's a great point, by the way, that defense out there, 85 plays. And he said it's not time of possession, it's snaps. Well, I guess if his defense is out there for 85 snaps, that's not a good thing. I mean, is the defensive side of the ball?
Let's be real about this. This team has been last in the league in time of possession the last 2 years. Byron Maxwell says at the end of the game, hey, I'm human, I get tired.
Yeah. Let me ask you about Maxwell then, as you brought him up. Is Maxwell already, Kerry Williams seemed frustrated early in his tenure here. Is Maxwell in for Williams, same thing, frustration already?
No question. I think we'll see a little bit of that on Sunday. This is a game where a lot of people have to bounce back. Now, I look at Vegas Vic this morning. I'm looking at my colleagues in the Philadelphia media. I'm going up and down. Everybody's picking the Jets.
Everyone. I'm going to pick the Eagles. I think this is desperation time. This is where professional athletes know one thing. They don't want to be irrelevant midway through September. They want to be playing meaningful football when the leaves start to turn. And I think this team will play smarter and harder. And the Jets have injuries at key positions. Eric Decker, Chris Ivory, Darrell Vivas. I just don't think this is an 0-3 football team, and I think the Eagles will find a way to win by a field goal, 23-20. And look, I think a lot of it, you're right. The ESPN NFL analysts, 11 of 12, Sal, went with the New York Football Jets. Now, you've been around all week during this lead up to this game.
obviously this Jets team is 2-0. They play very good defense. Is this just the wrong week to be playing the Jets with all these problems going on with your offensive line and all the injuries the Eagles have too? How do they play a factor in this game? No Alonzo, no Kendricks, no Hart, who's going to replace Thornton, who's out as well.
Well, they'll move Vinny Curry inside, and they'll hope that Marcus Smith shows up.
Yikes.
He puts on the big boy pants.
And that's what we're banking on to get to 3-0 with Marcus Smith in the lineup a lot?
I think the Eagles will blitz.
Yeah.
I think they'll blitz and they'll try to force turnovers. In the first 2 weeks, and this is a record in the NFL in the first 2 weeks, if you're -1 in the turnover margin, you lose 85% of the time. 85. So there's a number of reasons for that. One, it's because the games have been so close. Two, penalties are at an all-time high. The NFL put 8 officials on the field this year for the first time, went from 7 to 8. As a result, there have been 606 called penalties.
Unreal.
503 accepted penalties. That's an NFL record after 2 years. So you add penalties, close games. What does that mean? You turn the ball over, Mike, in the first quarter. We saw it last night. As soon as Kirk Cousins threw that pick to Prince Amukamara, what happened? That let the air out of the Redskins. They had lost their energy after that because they know, everybody around the league knows now, the way penalties are being called and how close the games are. If you turn the football over, you're in bad shape early on.
3 times last week, and the Jets have forced 10 in their first 2 weeks. That's an ugly thing.
So this is all about who's going to turn the ball over. And I think both Billy Davis and Todd Bowles, who are calling the defenses for the 2 respective teams, they will pull out all the stops. This league, Mike, has turned into attack the line of scrimmage, attack the quarterback. Why? Again, I'll go back to it. I hate to repeat myself, but the penalties, they're calling 2 things. They're calling offensive holding and pass interference at a record rate. And when you call offensive holding and pass interference, that means one thing's going to work: blitz.
Sal, I want to get your take as we close out here on a Sal Pal Friday. Last but not least, we got to talk about the quarterback. Does he seem right? I mean, whether it's mentally, physically, he's completed 66%. Do you put a lot of blame on Bradford, or is this not lying in his lap?
It's difficult to really assign blame to one player when you have deficiencies across the board: blocking, tackling, penalties, turnovers, lack of production in the secondary, lack of a pass rush. So Bradford knows that he shares the blame. But here's what I would like to see from Sam Bradford, Mike. I want to see more command on the field. I want to see more command in the huddle. I want to see him grab everybody by the face mask on the sideline and have that little sideline huddle up and get people enthused and motivated. That kind of stuff, you think it doesn't go a long way, but it does. And if you can back that up with some big plays, some strong plays, and move the ball effectively and stay on the field, you build a sense of camaraderie. Right now, I'll just say it, and I think I'm not out of line by saying this, because I think a lot of people see this, Mike. They just look like a bunch of strangers who are not playing together.
I agree. The continuity is not there. It's just simply not there at this point. That's why I said at the beginning, Sal, it has a very Dream Team-esque feel to it, where the talent was there, but the continuity was not, and it led to 2 disastrous seasons and the coach getting fired. Thanks, brother.
Mike, great talking to you, and we'll talk next week, brother.